You're watching Duct Tape and Popsicle Sticks with Mike and Maria Keiser. Because sometimes you feel like your business is being held together by duct tape and popsicle sticks. On this show, you're not going to hear the latest business fad. You're going to get useful information that you can apply to your own business right now.
Hello and thanks for watching another riveting episode of Duct Tape and Popsicle Sticks. I'm Mike Keiser, along with a woman who definitely does not approve this message, Maria Keiser. How are you today?
I'm good.
I wanted your message approval, but nope, not this message.
Couldn't approve it.
Maybe next one. Maybe the next one. Oh, and as a general reminder, folks, everything you need to know about the show is in the show notes. How to reach us is in the show notes. So everything you need to know is right below what you're viewing at this moment. And also, we're going to be talking about, we've worked with so many clients on the area of communication. And this is something we talked about a couple of years ago, and based on it being one of the biggest things that people have ever watched or listened to is around what kind of communicator are you? Mm-hmm. Well, it's so much. So we're not only revisiting it in this show, but we're going to do a few shows about communication, because regardless of the type of marketing you engage in, how you communicate is amazingly important. So, Maria, you always say that, I don't know, how would you say that most marketing revolves around communication and agreements? Would you expand on that just a little bit?
I would even take it a step further. I would say everything revolves around communication and agreements. So it's what we say, it's what the other person is understanding about what we said, and then what type of agreement do you come to after the conversation or the communication that you've had.
And is that lacking in a lot of communications without, are agreements lacking and people following through on agreements lacking?
Yes, and I would say often communications are probably in the more passive category, because we're so polite today. We don't want to be pushy, we don't want to strong arm anybody, we don't want to come across as something negative.
So let's go there for a couple minutes, if you don't mind, because the title of this video is What Kind of Communicator Are You? Mm-hmm. And you always talk about 4 different types of communication. Right. You just brought up passive. So quickly, what is a passive kind of communicator?
A passive kind of communicator is agreeable in nature, and they don't have anything that they're pushing you to. So, for example, what type of movie do you want to go to? It doesn't matter. Whatever you want is fine. What do you feel like having for dinner? Oh, it doesn't matter. Or from a marketing standpoint, you might have a marketing communication without any type of call to action, or you might not follow it up with a question. So, for example, somebody might say, "Hey, we should meet sometime," and you say, "That would be great."
And that's the end of it.
And that's the end of it.
Right.
And now you're trying to follow up with that individual, trying to get them to schedule a meeting. And instead, a better way of handling that might be, great, let's put something on the calendar now. That's a communication with a next step, and then you come to an agreement.
Well, then we'll get there in a minute as well. So passive, so there must also be, therefore, aggressive communication?
There certainly is. So on the total flip side of that, it's the interaction where the person is coming in, and this person is always very intense. Everything has to be like right now, and they're in your face, and they have a tone to them that makes you just want to shrink back, and you don't want to upset them any more than they're already upset.
And we've seen that a lot with people, and it doesn't even necessarily come across as anger, although it can. It can just come across as like this level of intensity that's making you say, whoa, back off a little.
So in that kind of communication, you have the person's attention, because they're not gonna but they're not listening to you the way you need them to listen to you, because they're just thinking about how do I get out of this. So from a marketing standpoint, an aggressive marketer might be like, you want to meet? Let's meet right now. Hey, go get your calendar, and really putting you on the spot. Whereas maybe they weren't quite ready to do that yet, or whatever the reason might be, or I know that you're going to give me referrals. Write down all these referrals right now. Whoa, wait a minute. I don't know if I want to give you referrals.
Right. So a third type of communication, and once again, we're probably going to be doing videos on all of these, but a third type is, you call it passive aggressive.
Right. So passive aggressive comes across as very laissez-faire. I don't really care, no big deal. But in the background, it's really a big deal. So this is the individual, and you can spot this person. So this individual is always complaining about what somebody else has done to them. Nothing is ever their fault. They're always blaming someone else.
But they never say anything to the person.
Never.
They'll just say it to everybody else.
They never address the person who's responsible for disappointing them.
Because that would mean assertive communication, which is, from a marketing standpoint and just a day-to-day communication standpoint, isn't assertive the way to go, for lack of a better.
The reason passive-aggressive is called passive-aggressive is because they appear so passive, but when they get angry, now they're aggressive about it, and so then it just switches, and they're never talking to that individual, but they're kind of keeping you on task by letting you know that, hey, I'm probably going to complain about you to somebody else, and
right.
So they're always bad-mouthing.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, and so finally, a preferred method, again, if you're a marketer or just in day-to-day life, would be assertive communication. And just talk about that real briefly, because we're going to do a whole show on it.
Sure, and I did bring an example up earlier, but assertive is stating what you need to the individual in a calmer way, approaching someone, hey, this is what I need, this is what I want, what are your thoughts on this, and then at the end coming to some type of an agreement. So in marketing, it's a message with a call to action that's appropriate to the message that you've created, and then at the other end creating that agreement to move forward.
Well, there you go. So it seems to me that regardless of the platform you're on, or the medium that you're communicating with at the moment, that how you communicate it's head and shoulders in importance above whatever platform it is you're communicating with.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is a lot of times people might be assertive communicators in their everyday life, but then shrink up when it's their marketing. So it's really looking at your overall communication, and where you're having breakdowns is probably where you're failing to be an assertive communicator. But we'll get way more into that in upcoming episodes.
We will, because I'm sure, as you, the viewer, know, we've gone a little bit over our promised 3-minute mark here. But to go back to that, when we talk about communication, it is always our most viewed, it's always our most listened to. And so therefore we just thought it's something we should bring up again and even get into more clarification.
Sure. I mean, there's so much on this topic, and it's something people really aren't taught appropriately. We're taught to be that polite, passive person.
So, but to start with, in your communication, figure out which one of the 4 types of communicators are you, is a great place to start. So once again, everything you need to know about how to reach us and everything is in the show notes, so we invite you to go there.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else to wrap up with?
Well, if you liked our episode today, subscribe to our show. Other than that, I don't have anything.
Share it, subscribe, whatever you like to do.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, thanks a million for hanging out with us. Take this to heart. This communication stuff is probably one of the more important things we're ever going to talk to you about. But once again, in the meantime, we appreciate your loyal viewership. You've been watching Duct Tape and Popsicle Sticks, where we make your business better 3 minutes at a time.
Ciao for now.
You're watching Duct Tape and Popsicle Sticks with Mike and Maria Keiser.